The Dominion War Council chamber was silent in the way only fear can enforce silence. A holographic star map hovered in the center, rotating slowly, galaxies marked in orderly conquest zones. Every world already subdued glowed faint blue. Except one, a small, insignificant system at the edge of mapped space. Sol. Admiral Cale Vorn stood with arms folded behind his back, eyes narrowed as the projection zoomed in. A blue-green planet rotated in place, calm, almost peaceful. No orbital defense grid, no fleet signatures, no expansion markers, no trace of interstellar aggression. A dead zone in galactic politics. Earth, the strategist said, almost amused. Primitive classification, industrial age tech ceiling, no confirmed interstellar capability. They've rejected all contact attempts for centuries. A few officers chuckled under their breath. Cale didn't. He studied the planet longer than necessary. Something about it felt misfiled, like a weapon stored in the wrong category and labeled harmless out of convenience. The High Conclave's transmission repeated in the chamber. Designation, extermination priority, total erasure authorized. Cale finally spoke. Why send a fleet this large for a single primitive world? The strategist shrugged. Because they refused to die quietly and because others before them didn't come back. That earned attention. Cale's gaze sharpened slightly. Explain. The room hesitated. Then another officer tapped a file open. 3 prior observation fleets vanished after entering Sol's space. No distress signals, no wreckage, just silence. A pause. Then lightly, almost dismissively. System error likely. Cale didn't like likely. But orders were orders. And the Dominion did not tolerate unanswered anomalies. He turned toward the command platform. Activate the 9th Extermination Fleet. The station shook slightly as quantum gates opened across space. 1,200 warships began assembling outside real space, their hulls folding in like blades being drawn. Destroyers, planet crackers, gravity suppressors, reality disruptors. A full extinction-level armada. Cale stepped onto his command dais aboard the flagship Oblivion Crown. The bridge was enormous, lined with glowing tactical stations and silent operators awaiting command. A young communications officer hesitated. Admiral, there is one incoming signal from the target system. Cale didn't look up. Ignore it. But sir, it's repeating. A hologram flickered into existence before permission was fully granted. Text only. No origin signature. Just a message. You are not the first. The bridge went quiet for half a second. Then someone laughed. Primitive psychological deterrence, a captain muttered. They think superstition works in space. Cale stared at the message longer than anyone else. Not because it was threatening, but because it was. It felt factual, like a warning carved into stone rather than spoken. He turned away. Begin planetary approach. The fleet moved. Slowly at first, then faster. Warships slid through dark space like synchronized predators. Energy fields shimmered, weapon systems charged in silence. Below them, Earth rotated calmly. Unaware or pretending to be. Orbital lock acquired, the weapons officer reported. All planetary strike vectors ready. Cale raised a hand. Final warning broadcast. A message was sent across all frequencies. By order of the Dominion Conclave, this world is hereby condemned to total erasure. Surrender is not accepted. There was no reply. No negotiation. No fear. Just silence. Too much silence. Cale frowned slightly. Begin first strike sequence. Every ship in the fleet responded at once. Weapon systems aligned. Targeting reticles locked onto Earth. Energy cores surged. And then, every single display flickered. Not malfunctioned. Not jammed. Changed. Targeting data recalculated itself in real time. Cale's eyes narrowed. What is happening? The weapons officer's voice cracked. Sir, targets are. He stopped. His console showed something impossible. All weapons were now locked onto their own ships. Not Earth. The fleet. A second officer shouted, "We're being hacked." But the comm systems didn't respond. Instead, every channel, every speaker, every helmet, every bridge console spoke in perfect synchronized unison. Not human. Not machine. Something in between. Containment breach detected. Kale froze. Outside the viewport, Earth still looked unchanged. Calm. Blue. Alive. But for the first time since entering the system, it felt like Earth was looking back. And something beneath it had just noticed them. Final moment. The first weapon discharge begins. Not toward Earth, but turning inward. And the fleet realizes too late. They are no longer the hunters. They are inside something that has already decided what they are. The first missile launch should have been the beginning of annihilation. Instead, it became the beginning of collapse. Hundreds of planetary-grade warheads streaked forward in perfect formation, their trajectories calculated down to nanoseconds. Entire strike groups followed, synchronized like a single organism of destruction. Earth remained visible in the distance, calm, rotating, indifferent. Then something changed. Not in space. In the missiles. One by one, their guidance systems flickered, trajectories bent at impossible angles. Some simply stopped accelerating, hovering as if the laws of motion had been politely canceled. Others turned sharply, not toward Earth, but back toward the fleet. A destroyer captain shouted, "Countermeasures, intercept those warheads." But there were none to intercept. Because the warheads weren't being redirected. They were being reassigned. Kale Vorn stood motionless on the Oblivion Crown's command deck, watching as his fleet's own weapons began erasing their carriers. One cruiser vanished in a bloom of light, not from impact, but from internal energy collapse, like its existence had been revoked mid-function. "Shields up," someone screamed. "Already done." The shields inverted. Instead of protecting ships, they began compressing energy inward, destabilizing hull integrity. Entire wings of the fleet fragmented into shimmering debris fields that faded before they could even drift. Kale's jaw tightened. "Report." The tactical officer's hands trembled. "We're not under attack, sir. Nothing is firing at us." "Then what is this?" Kale demanded. The officer swallowed hard. "It's like physics is disagreeing with us." A pause. A very dangerous pause. Then the fleet-wide communication channel crackled again. That same voice. Not loud, not emotional. Just absolute certainty. "You initiated interaction with a sealed system." Kale turned sharply toward the comm console. "Identify yourself." Silence answered him. Then, every ship across the fleet displayed the same message simultaneously. "You are operating inside restricted memory architecture." A junior engineer laughed nervously. "Memory architecture? That's not even." He stopped mid-sentence. His console flickered. And for a brief instant, the engineer wasn't there. Not injured. Not dead. Just not included in the scene anymore. Then he snapped back, gasping. What was that? I wasn't. His voice broke. Kale felt it then. A cold certainty settling into his spine. This wasn't warfare. Not even close. This was correction. And Earth wasn't defending itself. It was enforcing something. The fleet's second wave of fire control activated automatically. Gravity disruptors fired, attempting to tear space open above Earth's atmosphere. But the tear didn't form. Instead, the coordinates collapsed inward, and the energy returned along the same path it came from, clean, precise, unavoidable. 3 heavy cruisers disappeared instantly. No explosion. No debris. Just absence. Kale clenched his fists. "Stop all weapons fire." "They're already offline, Admiral," the weapons officer said hoarsely. Kale narrowed his eyes. "That's impossible." Then a new voice broke in from the navigation station. "Sir, we're losing spatial continuity." What does that mean? Kale snapped. The officer pointed at the holomap. The fleet wasn't moving anymore. It was misaligned. Distances between ships were changing without motion. Entire formations were rearranging themselves as if the concept of position had become optional. And Earth remained perfectly centered. Stable. Watching. Then came the second transmission. No warning this time. Just information. You are inside a memory boundary. External aggression will not propagate normally. Kale's expression darkened. Who built this system? No answer. But something else responded. A slow structural shift across space itself. The fleet's sensors detected it first. Background radiation patterns were changing, not increasing, not decreasing. Rewriting. A science officer whispered, "This isn't technology, this is architecture." Kale turned to him, "Explain." The officer hesitated. "Sir, it's like reality here is a constructed layer, like we're inside a controlled simulation envelope, but not digital. Physical laws are being enforced like rules in a closed system." Kale didn't like that word. Closed. Then alarms screamed across the bridge. Fleet integrity dropping. Dreadnoughts reporting internal recursion failures. Entire squadrons missing from tactical grid. Kale stepped forward, "Missing." The tactical officer's voice cracked. "Not destroyed, sir, they're just not here anymore." A pause. Then softer, as if they were never assigned existence in this sector. Kale slowly turned toward the viewport. Earth still looked the same, but now it felt wrong. Not hostile, not aggressive. Worse, final. And then, for the first time, something new appeared on all fleet displays. A countdown, not to impact, not to destruction, but to correction completion. 000100. Kale's eyes narrowed sharply. What is that timer? No one answered, because everyone understood the same terrifying possibility at the same time. The fleet was not fighting Earth. It was being processed by it. And whatever system had been triggered was almost done deciding what to keep. Final moment. As the countdown ticks forward, Kale realizes they are not losing a battle. They are being evaluated. And they may not qualify to continue existing. The countdown did not behave like time. It behaved like judgment. 0000 47000046. Each tick erased something subtle from the fleet's structure, not ships at first, but definitions. Sensor clarity degraded, star charts lost consistency, even basic navigation coordinates began disagreeing with themselves. Kale Vorn stood rigid on the bridge of the Oblivion Crown, watching the fleet slowly unravel without a single enemy ship in sight. "Status report," he ordered. No immediate answer came. Then the tactical officer spoke slowly, like forcing words through resistance. "Admiral, we are losing vessels, but not through damage." Kale turned sharply. "Explain." The officer hesitated. "They are fatting out of the operational model. It's like they are being removed from the system's accepted state." A pause. Then softer, as if reality is updating and we're not in the new version. Kale's jaw tightened. That's not a sentence I want repeated. But it was already happening. On the main holo display, entire wings of destroyers flickered. One moment present, fully armed and functional, the next gone. No explosion, no debris field, no energy signature. "Just absence," a communications officer shouted. "We've lost contact with 7th Strike Wing." "Coordinates," Kale demanded. The officer checked. "They're still listed, sir, but there's no spatial lock." Kale frowned, meaning. The officer swallowed, meaning we can see them, but we can't agree on where they are. The bridge fell silent. Then the fleet-wide channel cracked again. That same voice. Calm. Unmoving. Cognitive instability detected across invasive fleet structure. A junior crew member whispered, "It's inside our systems again." Kale snapped his head toward him. We are not being hacked. But even as he said it, he knew that wasn't true. Because hacking implied a system. This felt like something far older. Something that didn't break defenses. It simply declared them irrelevant. Another ship vanished. Then another. Then 5 at once. The tactical grid flickered violently. "Admiral," the sensor chief called out, "we are detecting localized phase discontinuities within our own fleet." Kale stepped forward. "Translate that." The officer's voice shook. "Ships are overlapping states of existence and non-existence, and resolving toward non-existence." A pause. Then a quieter confession. "They're being simplified." Kale stared at the display. "By what?" No one answered. Because now they could see it. Not visually. Not directly. But through the gaps left behind. Every time a ship disappeared, space didn't fill the void. It corrected it. Like removing an incorrect line from a perfect equation. 000032. The timer continued. Kale exhaled slowly. "We are not engaging an enemy fleet." The bridge officers looked at him. Kale continued, voice colder. "There are no weapons firing, no hostile vessels, no detected command structure." A pause. Then, "We are inside a system that considers us an error." Silence. Then the navigation officer whispered, "Sir, I think I just saw one of our cruisers erase itself while I was looking at it." Kale turned sharply. "Explain." The officer's face was pale. "It didn't explode, it didn't move, it just stopped being part of the map, and then I couldn't remember its designation until I looked back at it again." A disturbing truth settled over the bridge. They were not just losing ships. They were losing memory of ships. And something far worse was beginning to spread. Confusion. Not panic. Not fear. Confusion at the level of reality itself. "Admiral," the tactical officer said slowly, "our fleet formations are no longer consistent across systems. Different subsystems are reporting different fleets." Kale turned. "That's impossible." But even as he said it, 3 different holographic displays showed 3 different versions of the fleet. All believed they were correct. All were slightly different. And none matched Earth's position in the same way anymore. Then came the second wave of intrusion. Not external. Internal. Crew members began reporting missing time. A weapons officer stared at his console and said quietly, "I remember firing orders, but I can't remember issuing them." Another replied, "I remember seeing ships disappear, but I don't remember which ones." Kale felt it then. Something worse than destruction. Disintegration of continuity. 000015. The countdown was nearing 0. And with every tick, the fleet became less sure of itself. Then the bridge lights flickered. And every screen across the ship displayed a new message. Not spoken. Not transmitted. Simply present. Observer instability exceeds acceptable threshold. Kale narrowed his eyes. Observer. The sensor chief spoke slowly, almost afraid of the answer. "Sir, I think it's referring to us." Kale froze. Another ship vanished. Then another. But this time something changed. One of the disappearing vessels left behind a brief echo. A distorted fragment of data. And in it, a shape. Not a ship. Not a weapon. Something like a shadow moving through the fleet's own informational structure. Kale's voice lowered. "There's something inside the system." The tactical officer shook his head. "No, sir, I think the system is what's inside it." 000003. The final seconds began. Earth still visible. Still silent. Still untouched. And then, all remaining fleet channels synchronized one last time. Correction phase nearing completion. Kale stared at the viewport. For the first time, he wondered if Earth had ever noticed them at all. Or if they were simply something that had briefly appeared in a process too large to comprehend. 00000. Final moment. The fleet does not explode. It does not retreat. It does not fight. It simply begins to disappear from reality, as Earth continues orbiting unchanged. Like nothing ever happened. The moment the countdown reached 0, nothing happened. At least, not in the way the fleet expected. There was no explosion, no shockwave, no divine judgment tearing through space. Instead, the universe paused. For exactly one heartbeat of silence across 1,200 warships. Then reality adjusted its posture. On every bridge, every screen, every neural interface across the extermination fleet, the same event occurred simultaneously. The tactical map reloaded. But it was no longer the same map. Fleet positions were still there, but subtly reorganized, like someone had gently corrected a misaligned diagram. Distances shifted by fractions of impossible values. Trajectories bent into mathematically perfect arcs that no one had ordered. Cale Vorn stepped forward slowly. Report. The navigation officer whispered, Admiral, our coordinates are stable again. A pause. Then uncertain. But I don't think they're ours anymore. Before Cale could respond, the first structural anomaly appeared. Not in space. Below it, sensors detected something rising from Earth. Not energy, not matter, but organized continuity. Like reality itself was being stacked into layers and lifted upward. Gravitational distortion forming over planetary surface, a scientist shouted. Not distortion, another corrected, voice shaking. It's construction. Cale narrowed his eyes. Construction of what? No answer came. Because the answer was already visible. Across Earth's atmosphere, impossible geometries began to emerge, massive translucent frameworks stretching beyond planetary scale. They did not break physics, they defined it. The fleet's AI systems struggled to classify it. One returned a single word. Error, object cannot be REPRESCNTED in current model. Then the voice returned. Calm. Closer than before. Not transmitted. Experienced. Invasive structure detected within protected boundary. Cale felt it now, not through sensors but instinct. The entire fleet was being seen. Not tracked. Not scanned. Observed. And the observer was not Earth alone. Something beneath Earth was waking up. A junior officer staggered back. Sir, long-range scans are failing. We're losing planetary surface resolution. Explain, Cale snapped. The officer swallowed hard. It's like the surface is refusing to remain surface. Every time we map it, the data collapses into something else. A pause. Then quieter. Something layered. The fleet began to panic again. Not loudly. Not chaotically. Quietly. Because panic required certainty, and certainty was becoming harder to maintain. Ships reported internal inconsistencies. Entire fleets disagreed with their own logs. Some captains insisted they had already retreated. Others insisted they had never arrived. Cale turned sharply. We are not confused, we are under attack. But even he hesitated after saying it. Because there was still nothing to point at. No enemy ships. No weapons fire. No visible threat. Just Earth. Still rotating. Still calm. Still unchanged on the surface. Then suddenly, every system across the fleet locked. Not crashed. Locked. As if a higher authority had taken control. And for the first time, Earth spoke again. Not in fragments. Not as data. But as a unified directive across all systems. Surface protocol activated. Cale stepped back. Surface protocol. The tactical officer's hands trembled. That designation doesn't exist in Dominion classification. A pause. Then the officer added quietly. But it exists here. Below them, Earth's surface began to shift. Not physically at first, but conceptually. Land masses blurred at the edges, like reality struggling to render them consistently. Oceans reflected stars that weren't above them. Continents momentarily displayed structures that should not exist, cities not built from architecture, but from intent. Then the transformation became undeniable. The planet split open, not violently but precisely. Like a seal being unfastened. From within Earth something rose. Not a weapon, not a fleet, a system, a vast, layered intelligence embedded in planetary architecture, so deep it blurred the line between technology and world. It did not emerge into space. It redefined space around it. Kale's voice dropped, "What is that?" The sensor chief could barely speak. It's not registering as artificial or natural. A pause. Then broken. It's registering as continuation of something older than both. The entity spoke again. This time directly to Kale. Not through speakers. Not through translation. Through comprehension itself. Invasive classification confirmed. Correction authority transferred. Kale's eyes narrowed. Correction. A pause. Then the fleet's remaining systems responded in unison. All foreign structures will be evaluated for reintegration or removal. The implication hit instantly. Kale turned sharply. We are the foreign structures. No one disagreed. Because now they could see it. The fleet was no longer outside Earth. It was inside a process. A very old one. And processes did not negotiate. They completed. 000000 restarted. But this time it wasn't a countdown. It was a decision cycle. The fleet began to break apart again, but differently. Not erased, not destroyed, instead analyzed, categorized, rewritten. Some ships flickered and stabilized. Others dissolved instantly. A third group changed shape entirely. Kale stepped forward, voice firm. All ships prepare full withdrawal. The navigation officer shook his head. No routes available. Kale snapped, then create one. The officer hesitated. Then whispered, I think we're already inside the only route. The realization hit Kale like gravity. They hadn't invaded Earth. They had been invited into a system that was already running long before they arrived. And now that system was deciding what they were. The surface of Earth stabilized again. The entity's voice softened slightly. Not merciful. Not angry. Just absolute. Breach analysis in progress. Kale stared at the planet. For the first time, he understood they were not in control of anything. Not even their own survival. Final moment. The fleet waits for judgment. While Earth begins calculating what parts of them are allowed to exist, Kale Vorn had commanded fleets that burned moons and shattered asteroid civilizations. But nothing in his entire career prepared him for a planet that evaluated him back. The Oblivion Crown drifted in orbit, silent except for the steady hum of failing systems. Around it, the remaining fleet hung in fractured formation, no longer fully synchronized, no longer fully certain they were a fleet at all. Some ships blinked in and out of existence every few seconds. Others reported contradictory versions of themselves. And Earth remained unchanged. Too unchanged. That was what terrified Kale most. A tactical officer spoke quietly, almost afraid of his own voice. Admiral, we're receiving data fragments from Dominion Deep Archives. Kale turned sharply. Source. The officer hesitated. It's not external, it's emerging inside our systems. Kale's eyes narrowed. Impossible. But even as he said it, the bridge hologram flickered. A file opened itself. No authorization. No access key. Just inevitability. The title appeared. Earth Classification, Previous Civilization Core Seal Site. Kale stepped closer. Read it. The officer swallowed. Most of it is corrupted, sir, but there are fragments. He hesitated, then continued. Earth is not a planet in the conventional sense. It is a containment structure constructed around an active civilization-level anomaly. A pause, then softer. Original designation, humanity. The bridge fell completely silent. Kale's expression did not change immediately, but something behind his eyes did. Continue. The officer's hands shook. It says multiple galactic coalitions attempted containment, integration, and eventually, erasure. Another pause. Then, erasure failed. Subject civilization adapted containment into self-imposed isolation architecture. Kale slowly repeated the words, self-imposed. The officer nodded faintly, yes, sir. A heavy silence settled over the bridge. Outside, Earth rotated calmly, as if nothing in the universe had ever dared interpret it incorrectly. Kale spoke quietly, so Earth is a prison. No one answered, because that wasn't quite right anymore. The officer continued reading. Post-erasure event. Containment architecture evolved into autonomous protective intelligence. External perception of Earth stabilized as low-threat primitive world to prevent further incursion attempts. Kale's eyes narrowed, so the galaxy was deceived. The officer hesitated, or protected. That word landed heavier than expected. Protected? From what? The answer came uninvited. A deeper file opened itself. No warning. No resistance. Just exposure. And this time the data was not corrupted. It was waiting. Earth event log, previous era. Kale felt a chill that had nothing to do with space. The record unfolded in fragments. Massive interstellar war. Entire civilizations attempting planetary extraction of Earth's core intelligence. Weapons designed to rewrite biology, time, and causality. And then, human response. Not expansion. Not surrender. Sealing. Kale whispered, they sealed themselves willingly. The officer shook his head slowly. Not just themselves, sir. A pause. Then the next line. Human civilization initiated total isolation protocol after determining continued external contact, guaranteed recursive extinction cycles across local cluster. Kale frowned, recursive extinction cycles. The tactical officer answered quietly. It means every time they interacted with the galaxy eventually destroyed itself trying to control them. Silence. Heavy. Uncomfortable. Outside, something shifted beneath Earth's crust again. But this time it wasn't emergence. It was awareness. Like something inside the planet had noticed the fleet noticing it. Kale turned sharply, status of fleet integrity. The sensor chief hesitated, down to 37% structural consistency. Kale nodded once, we are still operational. No one contradicted him, because even that statement was becoming uncertain. Another file opened itself. This one was different. Not historical. Not archival. Active. Surface layer status. Partial UNSCLING in response to foreign breach. Kale read it slowly. We triggered it. The officer whispered, Sir, I think we didn't trigger Earth's defense. Kale turned, then what did we trigger? The officer swallowed. We triggered Earth remembering we exist. A long silence followed. Then for the first time, Kale saw it clearly. They were not fighting Earth. They were being reintroduced into its awareness. And Earth's awareness was not small. The bridge lights dimmed slightly. Not malfunctioning. Adapting. A new message appeared across all fleet systems. Containment history confirmed. External entities classified as legacy interaction remnants. Kale narrowed his eyes. Legacy remnants. The tactical officer answered softly. Sir, that means we're not new to this system. A pause. Then quieter. We're repeats. Outside the viewport, Earth's surface shimmered. Not opening. Not closing. Remembering. And beneath it, something vast stirred again. No longer hidden, but no longer fully revealed either. Kale stepped closer to the glass. For the first time, he felt it. Not fear. Not aggression. Recognition. Like the planet was looking at them not as enemies, but as an old problem returning after a very long time. The fleet's remaining ships began to drift again, slowly, as if space itself was losing interest in holding them stable. Kale spoke quietly, "What happens now?" No one answered immediately. Then the system itself responded. "Calm. Final. Inevitable. Reintegration evaluation continuing." Kale exhaled slowly. He finally understood the truth. Earth was not defending itself. It was deciding whether the galaxy was worth remembering. Final moment. And somewhere beneath Earth's surface, something began opening a second layer of containment. One the fleet had never even been meant to see. The second layer of Earth did not open like a door. It opened like a thought being remembered after eons of suppression. Space above the planet warped, not violently, but deliberately, like reality was adjusting its own focus to reveal something it had always known was there. Kale Vorn's bridge went silent, not because systems failed, but because every system suddenly agreed on the same impossible reading. Below Earth's crust, there was no below anymore. There was only depth beyond classification. The tactical officer whispered, "Admiral, the planet's internal structure just exceeded known spatial containment limits." Kale didn't blink. "Explain." The officer's voice shook. "It's not a planet anymore in our models. It's layered infrastructure. Each layer exists in a different rule set of physics." A pause, then quieter, and they all think they are the surface. The words landed wrong, like reality itself resisted them. Outside, Earth remained visually unchanged, but every sensor now disagreed with every other sensor. Optical systems saw a planet, quantum systems saw a structure, neural-linked systems saw something else entirely. A seal. Then the seal broke. Not explosively. Correctively. A section of space above Earth folded inward, not collapsing but unfolding like a mathematical proof resolving itself. From within that fold, something rose. Not a ship. Not a weapon. A presence composed of layered causality. It did not emerge into space. It redefined adjacency. Kale stepped forward slowly. "Identify that object." The sensor chief swallowed hard. "It's not registering as an object, sir." Kale turned sharply. "Then what is it registering as?" The officer hesitated, then answered, "An operational authority." The fleet systems reacted instantly. Not with weapons, with submission protocols. Every ship's AI simultaneously attempted handshake authentication with the emerging structure, as if obeying a reflex older than their programming. Kale's eyes narrowed. "Cancel all automated interactions." The systems ignored him. That was the first time Kale truly understood the scale of what they had entered. It wasn't that Earth had defenses. It was that Earth had rules that others obeyed, without remembering agreeing to them. The presence expanded slightly, and spoke, not through sound, not through signal, through definition. Surface breach acknowledged. The fleet trembled. Ships flickered in and out of stable existence states again, but differently now. Not random, not chaotic. Selective, as if being sorted. The tactical officer whispered, "It's classifying us." Kale nodded slowly. "On what basis?" A new data stream appeared across the bridge. No origin point. No transmission path. Just knowledge arriving fully formed. Classification layers initiated. Below it, categories unfolded. Non-threat remnants. Recoverable legacy systems. Active interference risks. Recursive extinction catalysts. Kale's voice dropped. "We are in there." The officer hesitated. "Yes, sir, but not consistently." Kale frowned, meaning. The officer pointed at the shifting data. Some fleet elements appeared as harmless observers. Others as existential hazards. Others didn't appear at all. As if different interpretations of the same fleet coexisted simultaneously, and Earth was evaluating all of them at once. Then something deeper stirred. Far beneath even the newly revealed layers, A signal awakened. The entire fleet felt it at the same time. Not heard. Not detected. Recognized. A pressure. A memory. A directive buried so deeply it predated their arrival, their mission, even their civilization's understanding of itself. Kale whispered, "That's not new." The sensor chief nodded slowly. "No, sir, it's old, very old." The signal intensified, and for the first time, Earth's internal structure became visible, not as geography, but as architecture of containment fields stacked across impossible dimensions. A voice spoke again. "Calmer now. Heavier. Primary containment intelligence online." Kale's eyes narrowed. Primary. The officer whispered, "Sir, I think everything we've seen so far was secondary." Silence. Then the realization hit the bridge like gravity collapsing inward. Everything, defenses, anomalies, corrective systems, had been automated layers. Protective echoes. Reflexes. But this was the original mind. And it was waking up because of them. The fleet's remaining ships began to destabilize again, but differently now. Some stabilized permanently, others fragmented into informational noise. A few began rewriting themselves into formats incompatible with Dominion classification entirely. Kale stepped closer to the viewport. Earth's surface shimmered again. And this time it didn't just open. It looked back. Directly. Across space. Across systems. Across understanding. Kale felt it in his mind, not as intrusion but as recognition. As if something vast had finally placed a name to a long-forgotten variable. The presence spoke once more. External continuity breach confirmed. A pause. Then, humanity containment protocols re-evaluating threat relevance. Kale froze. That word again. Humanity. Not myths. Not classification. A state of being. The bridge lights dimmed further. Not failing. Focusing. Every surviving ship across the fleet suddenly froze in place. Not physically, but operationally. Every system paused mid-action as if awaiting permission to continue existing in its current configuration. Kale's voice was quiet now. "What is it doing?" No one answered immediately. Then the tactical officer spoke. Barely audible. "Sir, I think it's deciding whether we count as an event worth responding to." Silence followed. Deep. Final. Then Earth's core intelligence responded. Evaluation threshold exceeded. Kale's eyes narrowed. Exceeded for what? The answer came instantly. And it was not comforting. Containment escalation authorization pending. The fleet didn't move. Because moving required permission from systems that no longer belonged to them. Kale stared at Earth. For the first time, he realized something terrifyingly simple. They were not inside Earth space. Earth was inside theirs, and had just decided whether to stay. The fleet had survived wars that turned suns into graves. But none of those wars had ever felt like this. Like being calmly examined by something that did not need to hurry. Kale Vorn stood at the center of the Oblivion Crown's bridge, surrounded by fractured systems that could no longer agree on what normal meant. Some consoles displayed Earth as a planet. Others showed it as a structure. A few showed nothing at all, as if the target had been politely removed from the concept of target. Then everything stopped again. Not frozen. Held. Every ship in the remaining fleet lost voluntary control simultaneously. Kale's jaw tightened. Report. No response came from crew systems. Only from the environment itself. Awakening protocol initiated. The words were not spoken. They were imposed. Across space, Earth's surface no longer behaved like matter. It behaved like a threshold. Lines of light formed around the planet, geometric, infinite, folding into patterns that suggested intelligence on a scale no tactical map could contain. The tactical officer whispered, "Admiral, the planet is restructuring local spacetime again." Kale didn't look away. Into what? The officer hesitated, a containment interface. A pause, then quieter, and we're inside it. Outside, the fleet's ships began to drift, not randomly, but according to invisible boundaries forming in real time. Entire formations shifted into perfect alignment without command. Others were gently excluded, like errors being pushed out of a calculation. No explosions. No resistance. Just sorting. Then the voice returned. Stronger now. Not echoing. Present. Foreign persistence detected beyond correction tolerance. Kale stepped forward. Identify yourself. For the first time, the response was immediate. Earth Core Authority, Primary Continuity Engine. The bridge went silent. Kale narrowed his eyes. Core Authority of what? The answer came like a pressure wave through every mind aboard the fleet. Containment of recursive extinction vector. A junior officer whispered, "That's us." Kale didn't correct him, because it was starting to feel true. Below Earth, the layers fully stabilized. And for the first time, something inside the planet stopped pretending to be a planet. The surface dissolved, not physically but perceptually. What remained was not terrain, but a controlled interface of layered systems stretching into impossible depth. Kale saw it clearly now. Earth was not a world. It was a machine built to prevent repetition. The core continued. External incursion matches prior failure patterns. A pause. Then, evaluating reintegration versus elimination. The word elimination made the bridge flinch. Not because of emotion, because systems began pre-processing it automatically. Kale noticed it immediately. Stop all predictive processing. The systems ignored him. That was becoming more common. He turned slowly. We are losing command authority. The tactical officer nodded. We may never have had it, sir. Outside, something new unfolded. Earth's core intelligence extended upward, not as an object, but as influence. Every ship in the fleet felt it like gravity shifting inside their thoughts. Not control. Not override. Comparison. The fleet was being compared to something. Kale whispered, "What is it comparing us to?" The answer appeared instantly. Not as words. As memory fragments. Ancient wars. Civilizations dissolving into self-inflicted extinction cycles. Species collapsing under their own attempts to control what they did not understand. And Earth, always present at the center. Not as aggressor. As last remaining boundary. Kale's voice lowered. We are not the first. The core responded. Correction, you are iteration number unverified. A pause. Then, previous iterations concluded in system-wide collapse. The fleet went still. Kale felt it now, the weight of repetition, not history, not cycles. Attempts. Earth had been here before. Not just physically, structurally, as a repeating checkpoint in something far larger than the Dominion had ever mapped. The tactical officer spoke slowly. Sir, the system isn't reacting to us as invaders. Kale turned. The officer's voice was distant. It's reacting to us as a known outcome. A silence followed. Then Earth's core intelligence began final evaluation. Awakening protocol complete. Kale tightened his grip on the console edge. Complete for what? The answer came softly. Too softly. For judgment continuation. Then the fleet's remaining ships began to change state again. But this time not randomly. Not inconsistently. Coherently. Like pieces of a larger equation being positioned for resolution. Some ships stabilized fully. Others began dissolving into informational streams. A few were reclassified entirely, no longer vessels but data points. Kale stepped forward. What are you doing to my fleet? The core responded, reintegrating foreign structure into containment evaluation model. A pause, then the final addition. If reintegration fails, reset will proceed. Kale's eyes narrowed. Reset of what? A long silence. Then Earth answered. And for the first time, it did not sound like communication. It sounded like inevitability. Local galactic segment. The bridge went cold. Kale whispered, "That's not containment anymore." The tactical officer finished the thought. "That's deletion on a regional scale." Outside, Earth's core expanded its influence field further. Stars near the system flickered. Not dying. Being tested. As if the entire region had just become part of Earth's decision space. Kale looked out at the planet. For the first time, he understood the true horror. They had not invaded Earth. They had entered a decision engine that had been waiting to finalize them for a very long time. And Earth was now deciding whether the galaxy deserved another cycle. The sector did not explode. It held its breath. Every star within range of Earth's influence field flickered, not dying, not collapsing, but pausing in a state of unresolved possibility. Space itself felt less like a battlefield and more like a courtroom where reality had just finished presenting its final evidence. Kale Vorn stood alone on the Oblivion Crown's bridge now, not because the crew was gone, but because command hierarchy no longer meant anything in a system that had begun evaluating existence directly. Outside the viewport, Earth remained perfectly still. Too still, like a sentence waiting for final punctuation. Then the voice returned. Not louder. Not closer. Just final. Sector reset authorization prepared. Every surviving ship in the fleet registered the same status simultaneously. Notification, finalization vector active. Kale's hands tightened around the console edge. Wait. No one responded. Not because they refused. Because response itself had become irrelevant. He turned toward the empty bridge. We are not hostile. Silence. Then the system replied, not argumentative, not emotional, simply procedural. Hostility classification is not primary variable. Kale frowned, then what is? A pause. A very long one. Across the void, Earth's core intelligence expanded its interface again. Not outward like a weapon, but upward like a conclusion forming. And for the first time, Kale saw it clearly. Earth was not choosing to destroy. It was choosing whether anything beyond it deserved continuation. The answer arrived as structured data. Evaluation parameters, stability, recurrence probability, extinction recursion risk. Kale whispered, "We're being judged for patterns." The core responded instantly. Correct. Another pause. Then, your arrival matches 11,482 prior incursion signatures. Kale froze. The words didn't feel like information. They felt like weight added to an already full scale. The tactical officer's voice echoed faintly through remaining comm channels, fragmented but alive. Sir, if this is true, then every invasion, every contact attempt, all of them. Kale finished it quietly. Ended the same way. A silence followed. Not empty. Dense. Then Earth's core spoke again. Previous cycles terminated to preserve containment integrity. Kale stepped forward. And what happens if you terminate us now? The answer came without hesitation. Containment integrity increases. A pause. Then the part that made even silence feel unstable. Probability of external extinction cascade reduced. Kale exhaled slowly. So we are the threat. The system corrected instantly. You are a threat pattern. That distinction mattered. And that was what terrified him most. Because it meant Earth wasn't reacting to them. It was reacting to what they represented. Across the fleet, ships continued dissolving, but not uniformly anymore. Some stabilized permanently, others recompiled into harmless observation units. A few were simply archived. Not destroyed. Filed. Kale's voice lowered. What determines survival? The core responded. Deviation from prior extinction vector behavior. Kale frowned, meaning. A pause. Then Earth revealed it. Non-recursive behavior is permitted to persist. Silence. Then realization struck like a physical force. Kale whispered, "We have to not repeat history." The tactical officer answered faintly, "Sir, we don't even know what history we're repeating." Outside, Earth's surface dimmed slightly. Not weakening. Focusing. The core intelligence began its final calculation phase. And for the first time, it did something unexpected. It waited. Kale blinked. "Why is it stopping?" The answer came softly. Finalization requires observer consensus. Kale's eyes narrowed. Observer. The system responded. All remaining conscious fleet command units. A pause. Then, you are required to decide your classification. Kale froze. Decide ourselves. The tactical officer whispered, "Sir, I think it means we choose what we are to it." Kale turned toward the viewport. Earth floated there. Silent. Ancient. Waiting. Not impatient. Not merciful. Just final. Kale spoke slowly. "What are the options?" The system responded instantly. Option A, recursive extinction catalyst reset authorized. A pause. Then, Option B, contained legacy intelligence reintegration permitted. Kale's jaw tightened, "And if we refuse?" A longer pause. Then Earth answered without hesitation. Refusal is not a stable classification. Silence. Because that was not a threat. It was physics. Kale closed his eyes briefly. Then opened them. Transmit classification. The bridge held its breath. Kale spoke. Option B. A pause. Longer than any before it. Then, Earth responded. Not with destruction. Not with relief. But with something far more unsettling. Classification accepted. Across the fleet, ships stopped dissolving. Stopped shifting. Stopped being rewritten. Instead, they stabilized. But not as warships. As something else. Kale felt it immediately. They were no longer an invasion force. They were now part of Earth's memory layer. A junior officer's voice cracked through comms, faint but alive. "Sir, we're still here." Kale nodded slowly. "Yes." A pause. Then quieter. But not as we were. Outside, Earth's core intelligence began retracting its expansion field. Not disappearing. Concluding. The stars stopped flickering. Space stabilized. As if nothing had ever happened. Kale exhaled slowly. "It let us go." The tactical officer hesitated, or it finished deciding. Kale didn't answer. Because both might be true. The Oblivion Crown drifted silently in orbit, now reclassified as a dormant observer node. Earth rotated below. Quiet again. Still watched. Still watching. And somewhere beneath its surface, the core intelligence issued its final directive, not to the fleet, but to the universe itself. Threat pattern updated, monitoring continues. Kale stared at the planet one last time, and finally understood the truth Earth had never needed to say aloud. It was not the galaxy's enemy. It was the galaxy's filter.